Oh my god!
Set up with the front ones when we already catch the huge fish.
I don't even know how to measure it. Alright, so we're going to be doing a video here on getting your tip-ups to be able to spin a lot better, especially when it's cold. Had a couple tip-ups last weekend that worked perfectly fine when they were inside. I took them outside, they got cold, and they wouldn't spin at all. The only ones that I don't know how I can't figure out how to grease is these old Igloo thermal ones. I took the whole thing apart. I tried to get it off. It looks like it's pressed in. There's no way to get grease inside of it. So the only thing to do with this, throw it in the garbage. Alright, so every tip-up's pretty much the same if you get the cheap ones. This is one of them old polar ones. This is also a polar one, but it's the circle. The old Beaver Dams are a little goofy. Took me a little bit to do it, but I got this thing spinning really nice now. Yeah, it almost spins all by itself. So I'm not gonna actually do it with this one. I'll do it with one of these. But basically, what we have is the end of it is soldered on. So all you do is you hit this with a torch. So I had it sitting up just like this. I had it in a vise, and then I torched the end of this until all the solder fell out, just fell on the ground on the garage floor. And then this pulls right off. After that pulls off, this whole stem just comes right out. What I did before I pulled the stem out was I hit the end of the torch with a stem, because as you can see on this, there's a little, that's the end of the stem right there. So when that's out, there's a bunch of stem that's sticking out. So what I ended up doing is just hit it with the torch some more. I got the whatever extra solder hot and liquefied, and then I just wiped it off. I make sure you wear like leather gloves, because this thing gets super hot. So but you just take it out, and then the rest of it is kind of the same. That's the only thing that's going to be different. So if you have any of these old Beaver Dams, you just got to solder the end to get it off. And then when I soldered it back on, I held it upside down. Now you'll see, flags are stuck together. So I have just a little bit of play here. Just a little bit. When I soldered it, I was holding it until it hardened, just to get that little bit of tiny bit of play. So that's everything else is going to be the same as I show you here quickly. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you with this old polar stick here. So, but everything is the same, no matter what cheap ass tip up you're using. So the first thing I'm doing, get this out of here. First thing I'm doing, I'm just going to take this little end off. You do have to hold. Everything will spin if you don't. Alright, so I just took this little red piece off. Then I'm just going to take a pliers and I'm going to loosen up this nut. And I'm holding this part while I'm doing that, otherwise everything will spin. So take the nut off. There's a little washer. Take that off. Then I'm just going to spin this thing off. This is threaded. Just pops right off. That's what the flag goes on. There's a little tiny spring in here. Just take that off. Now this will come out if this wasn't all tangled. Alright, so there we go. And here's the end of the rod. This one was spinning okay, so this one's wasn't terrible. I had a couple of them that wouldn't spin at all, including that Beaver Dam actually that I just showed you. That one wouldn't spin at all when it got cold, but when it was inside and warm, it was perfectly fine. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, you can use brake cleaner, carb choke spray. I'm just using carburetor and choke cleaner. And just spraying it on there. Get all the old grease loosened up. Just grab an old rag, wipe it right off. Parts cleaner does dry pretty quickly, so this, you don't have to really wait for anything. Alright, so I don't feel anything else on there. So that part's already cleaned. The next part is going to be, I just spray it right inside, and then I hit it with the air compressor. And there's just a little bit that comes out. There's not much in there. You can see it's just red, nasty, old. Who knows how old these are? So I'll usually do that 2 or 3 times. It's probably not a terrible idea to spray it into a garbage can, because I can feel there's grease on the floor. I sprayed both directions too. Because it does seem to come out one way or another. So I would say that one's done, cleaned up. So the grease that I got was High-Tech Fishing all-purpose blue lube. I know Beaver Dam makes some, and there's a couple different kinds, but basically you want water resistant, and you know, I would say just, you know, general purpose tip-up grease is probably your best bet. So now this one here is going to go from the bottom in. So I'm going to spray. I'm going to put a little bit in the bottom, and it's going to push it all the way through. On the Beaver Dam, you're going into the top, so you're going to put the grease on the top. So just pump a little bit in there. And I try to spin it as it's going in. Get the grease all wound up in there. I'll do that maybe 2 or 3 times also, because I mean, I know that I think the Beaver Dam one actually has a pretty smaller tip to it, so it makes it a lot easier to get in there. Some old grease in there. Also, it's a lot easier if you don't have line on the tip up, but it's a pain in the butt to take it all off. Alright, so I can already tell this thing is spinning very free. So now you do have a bunch of grease on the threaded portion. Don't let it go, it will fall off. So I'll take the grease off the threaded portion, and you just got to put it back together. So spring on first. So there's a little spring. Put that on. I do like, this thing gets a little gunked up. I like to spray this down a little bit too. There's some schmegma in there of corrosion and whatever, but this gets it a little bit smoother. I actually thought about painting these too, dipping them in like paint you do jigs with, give them a color or something. But then this just threads right back on, and you want to get this so that it's just giving tension on that spring. There we go. So I got the rod pushed all the way up. I'm going to spin this down right till it makes tension on the spring, because you want it to be able to play a little bit. Alright, so then we're putting that little black washer back on the top of that. We're spinning this nut on, and then when you tighten it, you basically are just going to put the pliers on the nut, and you're going to hold on to where the flag clamps on and just get it as tight as you can, but you got to hold those two together, otherwise it will start spinning the part that the flag goes on, and it'll start squishing that that spring down, and then you're gonna eventually lose the purpose of what you were doing is trying to make it spin free while you're gonna tighten it up too much. So I just spin them against each other so it's nice and tight. There you go. Look. I don't know if the camera caught that, but it just unwound itself. Here, I'll see if it catches on this one. It's spinning pretty free. It wasn't that free before. Alright, so then the last part is putting this little red tip back on. And your tip up is lubed. And I mean, these tip ups, shit, they're probably 20 years old. They've never been lubed. So there you go. It's lubing a tip up. All these cheap ones, like I said, are pretty much the same. This is going to work the exact same. It's got the same stuff to it. The exact same stuff. I'm surprised this one even spins. Huh. But yeah, so the Beaver Dam, the old Beaver Dams are the only ones that are a little goofy where you need a torch to get that off, but it was really simple. Like, you hit it with a torch, solder melts. Make sure you have solder when you want to put it back together. You just heat that piece up, you put the solder on it, and then you hold it upside down, and then it just kind of self-levels right on there. And then I actually went and put it on my bench grinder. Well, you can see that, but it's nice and shiny now. I had all the line off of this, and the inside of this is nice and shiny also. And then I even shined this up too. But this just, you can just see how nice it spins. So there you have it. Thanks for watching, and if there's any ice left, go catch some fish.